Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the select board meeting to order. It is Monday, January 5th, 2026. It's 5:30 p.m. Do we have any agenda changes or additions? No. Community comments. I'm just going to make one quick comment. It's been brought to my attention that I should make this comment and just remind people that if you're not feeling well and if you're coming to a meeting, to please either consider, joining via Zoom or put a mask on just for the good of the group. That's my community comment. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move on. We have minutes. We have minutes from December 15th, 2025.
I'll move to approve the minutes of 12/15/25.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Richard and a second by Leah. Any discussion regarding the minutes of December 15th?
Yeah. Items 6 and 7 need to be reversed. Or it wasn't 6 and 7. It was because we put the Elmore conversation between 5 and 6.
Okay, so just the order of
The order. I don't know how critical it is, but
okay. So the Elmore discussion should go between 5 and 6?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Judy, you good with that? Okay.
It's the way that the agenda is set up in the software, but I can put a notation in front of the Elmore. That was more. I can do that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the approving the minutes from December 15th, 2025, please say aye. Aye. That would be unanimous. We have minutes from the special select board meeting from the same date, December 15th, 2025.
I'll move to approve the minutes of 12/15/25 special meetings.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Richard, a second by Leah. Any discussion?
There's a typo on motion made by Laura, needs an S.
What page is that on?
Page 5.
Second paragraph after number.
Yeah, executive session. It's minor,
Right.
but
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the minutes from December 15th for our special select board meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Would be unanimous. We have minutes from December 30, 2025.
I'll move to approve the minutes of 12/30/25.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Richard, second by Leah. Discussion. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the December 30th, 2025 special select board meeting minutes, please say aye. Aye. That would be unanimous as well. Okay, thank you. Moving on to new business. We have an application from David Duran to join the Morristown Conservation Commission. You've had in your packet the application to read. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to appoint David Duran to the Morristown Conservation Commission to the remaining 4-year term, which expires March 3rd, 2026.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion by Richard, second by Laura. Discussion.
Just a thank you for being interested. It's a valuable committee and they're really going ho these days and doing some great work. So.
Is there anything you'd like to say, David?
I'm a pretty quiet guy, but I appreciate the vote of confidence and forward to hopefully helping out and do what I can.
Jerry, anything you want to add?
Not much to add, but I've known David for 3 or 4 years now, and he's an avid outdoors person and a carpenter and overall fine person, and looking forward to working with him.
Okay, good. That was Jerry Throne, Chair of the Conservation Commission, and David Duran. For those of you that didn't hear him, he does appreciate consideration for being on the board. He is present in the room. Thank you, David. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the appointment of David Duran to the Morristown Conservation Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous.
Thank you, David.
Road approval, this caught me a little off guard. I thought we had done Powder Day, but what we had done was approved the name 2 weeks ago. We didn't approve the actual road. So tonight we're here to approve this road that will be constructed. And in our packet, we do have the application, and I just want to draw our attention to the conditions for this road. And the conditions for this road are that it would be 16 feet wide, that there be an 18-inch culvert at Lawrence Road, that the road must have a negative slope and must not shed stormwater into the right of way. And I assume those are conditions that our superintendent has suggested would be appropriate for such a road.
Yep, and they're consistent with the site plan, so I don't see any issue there.
Great, good. So you're good with the overall application?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the private road Powder Day Lane to be constructed to town private road standards according to the site plan provided with the permit, Town of Morristown Highway right-of-way access policy and Appendix B conditions.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion by Richard and a second by George. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
And that would be unanimous. Thank you. Number 3 under new business, the consideration of the discontinuance proceedings under 19 VSA Chapter 7 for Lanphier Road, Stubbtown Road, and the Class 4 section of Lazy Lane, aka our bucket number 1. These are the 3 roads that we had identified quite a while ago as the roads to first consider for discontinuance. And the discontinuance of roads is something that has been a discussion that's been going on for a little while. And I just want to remind the board, and I guess the public as well, of what this process entails. It's not an easy process. And I spoke about this many months ago after getting legal counsel. And just remind the board that it is a process, and we're going to start with these 3 roads. I think we will anyways, if that's the will of the board tonight, and go through this process. So the first thing we need to do is confirm that these are the 3 roads that we want to consider at this time. Just a reminder that each one needs to be dealt with separately. Each one needs its own site visit. Each one needs its own public hearing. Those site visits could happen on the same day. They don't have to. Those public hearings could happen on the same day, but they don't need to. The select board needs to vote to commence the discontinuance proceedings under 19 VSA Chapter 7. And I'm thinking that this is something that we need to consider tonight, and maybe we will get a motion in that regard tonight. Such a vote, if it should happen today, needs to be 60 days before we start considering public hearings and site visits, because it takes that long for our legal counsel to do the background work that he or she should have to do. A site visit is required before the public hearing. That's per statute. And as I said before, those site visits can all happen at the same time. Those public hearings could happen at the same time, but those are required. That is the time, the opportunity to gather information, to get public input. It is the opportunity for us as a board to see what these roads look like, what the considerations might be. The reason for 60 days is it takes a while for legal counsel to do the work that they need to do. They're going to need to do title research, title searches for each of the abutting properties, and they also need to identify any mortgage holders or lien holders. because each of those individuals needs to be warned, or each of those entities need to be warned before the public hearing and before the site visit to give them an opportunity to weigh in. And legal counsel needs at least 30 days to do those title searches. And then, as is in this document, you can see we need to notify each of those entities by certified mail. We also need to discuss what the public good is, what the necessity is, what the convenience is for discontinuing these roads. And I know Jordan has put together a spreadsheet, which is in our packets, and I know the boards have a chance to take a look at that, hopefully. And Jordan's here to answer any questions in regards to that. And I'll just speak to that real quick in a second. That cost analysis is probably going to be a major aspect to that consideration of what the public good is. Public hearings, as I said before, need to be separate. And when once the public hearings are done, we do need to make a decision within 60 days. So when you start adding up the days and the weeks and the months, you can see that it takes a while to consider this, to consider it properly. If we do commence proceedings tonight, administration will notify legal counsel, and that will get things going from there. And yes, they'll start doing title searches and identifying lien holders and mortgage holders. In regards to the spreadsheet that's in our packet, again, the 3 roads are Stubbtown Road, Landfill Road, Lazy Lane, the class 4 section. And I'll remind the board that we did have property owners come in, abutting property owners for Lazy Lane, and did request that we discontinue that road. There are some cost estimates in here of what the yearly maintenance is. You can see what those numbers are. Stubbtown is approximately $3,300 a year. The same is true for Landfill Road, about $3,300 a year. There's a 0 for Lazy Lane. Jordan, if you want to explain that.
So that's the class 4 section, and we don't typically maintain class 4 roads.
Okay. And then I would just remind the board too, that those are just like the yearly regular maintenance costs. They don't include ditching, which is not a yearly maintenance. They don't include culvert replacement, which is clearly not a yearly maintenance. And nor does it include anything that might be associated with storms that might impact these roads, because that's clearly not yearly. So that's a bit of an introduction to what's on our plate tonight. Jordan is here if there's any questions for him or for administration.
Can you speak to, so that we're all clear about, when you say willing participants that's listed here, so that everybody's clear? I'm assuming that's why these 3 are first, is that.
I think these 3 are first really because it's sort of the low-hanging fruit with lots where with the lowest amount of owners and abutters and legal costs to get these ones and to really nail down the process. And speaking with residents, it appears that everybody is willing participants, but I think that's the importance of how state statute dictates that we do this process and that we have these site visits and everybody's properly warned to confirm anything, because all the fact, anything that I come is to the best of our knowledge. So I think it's really important how the process is structured to allow everybody that's there to say their piece and see if they truly are willing participants.
And just for future, they would, if they change their mind down the road or add more houses, they then have to come back in and meet the standards of the current zoning. The town to take it over. There's a whole nother process.
There's a whole process, I believe, is mostly zoning and DRB with a little bit of input for me in order to get a private road upgraded to town road status. So there is a process for that. So.
We want a cloud now.
Right, and you
And
know,
according to our zoning bylaws, the select board needs to approve
Yeah,
a new road, which
we just did.
Other questions, discussion?
Lazy Lane, is that, I'm not familiar with where that is. Is that a dead end, Jordan?
It is a dead end, so it's off of Route 100, in the vicinity of like Lower Elmore and Upper Elmore Mountain Road, and that neck of the woods on the opposite side of the street.
Okay,
And that is a dead end road. It currently ends now at a little turnaround, and then it actually on the tax map continues further as Class 4 road, but it is not a throughway as a Class 4.
okay.
And from what I can see, there's no public interests out there. It's not like a Class 4 that people use for recreational purposes. But again, this is to the best of my knowledge. So having these hearings allows us to confirm all that.
That's what I was after.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have one. I have one done.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Actually, it's for Judy. Judy, the memo you sent us dated January 5, it's in our packets. Says, hi Judy, and then goes on and explains. Who wrote that?
VLCT.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that came from VLCT and that was attorney Susan Senning. Thank you.
Okay,
That wrote that.
okay, thank you, Judy.
Any other discussion?
Just timeline, we're gonna, this is the first notice, house, what's the timeline? Because there's a whole list of them that we anticipate starting to look at the others. Are we gonna try to do them all summer?
I think, I'll answer that. I think when I first presented this to the board many months ago, I think these are the three that we wanted to push forward here in the beginning, get a feeling for what this process is like. And then when we're done with these, we can start considering other, we can consider bucket 2, bucket 3 as we've named it.
For years is why I'm asking.
I'm well,
You know.
believe me, I'm as aware of that as anybody is here. So you're right, it's been going on.
These roads, nothing happens. So I'm
Well,
hoping we get
it's
some
happening.
to take care of it.
So it's happening now, and I think we're gonna find out that there's a reason it's taken this long to get to this point. I would entertain a motion. I think tonight, unless other members of the board feel otherwise, I think tonight's a good time to begin this.
Rocket clock.
I'll move to commence consideration of discontinuance proceedings under 19 VSA Chapter 7 for each of the 3 roads or road segments identified in bucket number 1, specifically Lamprey Road, Stubtown Road, and Class 4 Road, the Class 4 road section of Lazy Lane.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion by Richard and a second by George. Further discussion? Any discussion on the board? I have one hand in the audience. Go ahead.
Jerry Throne. So the figures that Jordan have produced, yearly figures, those should be offset by costs to the town for attorneys, I assume. Just wondering.
I'm not clear of your question, but these would be annual costs,
The attorney has to look documents over.
right?
Someone has to do title searches.
Yeah.
Uh,
That would be a one-time cost.
Yes, but so those costs offset the savings.
Yeah, yeah. And
They're
so
co-
in the other buckets, as it becomes more and more lots, and it's not just front-facing lots, it's any lot that abuts the road. Title searches have to be done on all of them. So there's like, there might only be 3 lots front-facing with driveways, but there's like 30 different lots. So when we get to those, that's a significant cost to the town for the title search and much more complicated. So that's one of the biggest reasons we chose these 3 first, is because it's very limited in the number of total lots. And it should be offset within a year. I haven't gotten an estimate for how much it'll cost, but it should be offset within a year, but the savings will be annually thereafter.
I think it's safe to say we're gonna save, given these estimates, $6,600 every year. But there are costs up front.
Right, it's understood, but I would think that if we have to identify a benefit to the town, we also need to identify what the cost is to the town.
Right. Yeah.
it seems like a no-brainer, but it's not, in my mind, it's not complete.
Yeah, it's just, there's a one-time legal cost, but I'm not gonna say never ending, but there's a long annual savings,
A long savings.
year after year after year.
Agreed.
These roads have issues like no turnaround, so there's issues with our trucks and you're tearing up lawns, so there's other cost things that we're not looking at and time saving. I mean, you want to back up a plow truck? I mean.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that normally the way these things, I think, would be handled for governmental agencies, look at benefit cost ratios. And so here we have the benefit. We don't have the cost yet. Anything with a benefit cost ratio of 1 is considered good. Less than that, not so good.
And I would argue, yeah, there's another good example, another good reason to go through this with these 3 roads that we've identified as perhaps some of the more obvious ones to discontinue. And then we can start to answer questions like that. Exactly what are the legal costs associated with throwing up these roads?
Sure.
And we'll know more about that because we've got 16 other roads on our list.
I know. From the standpoint of Conservation Commission, I looked and didn't see any trails that would be accessed by these roads. So I'm not concerned about this particular bucket. But as Jordan indicated, I'm sure that when other ones come up, there might be reasons for access reasons not to approve such a thing.
That's a great point. Thank you, Jerry. Okay, other comments? Okay, we have a motion before us. We're gonna vote. Okay. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous. Number 4 under new business. So we have in front of us some flyers, some packets for our consideration. I know the board, including myself, is only seeing these for the very first time tonight. They were not in our packet. I came in to take a look at them a little bit early. So I've only been looking at them since 5 o'clock. So we need to decide on these, on what we think of these, which ones we like, perhaps all of them we like, and how we plan to disseminate them, where we plan to disseminate them. Are we interested in putting these on our website, for example? Or are we interested in putting them out on Front Porch Forum, Facebook? We have coming up this weekend on Saturday, pie for breakfast. I think that would be a great time to start getting information out about the LOT. Perhaps at the library, we might put some of these documents out, and clearly here at the town office. So I think if we do want to get this information out for Saturday, we need to get some feedback back to administration. I did talk to Brent earlier today, and he thought that if we were able to get some feedback to him by Wednesday of this week, that would work, and we would then be able to proceed forward with that. So again, I know you're just getting this now, and you're just glancing at this, but I guess primary thoughts. I've taken a look at it myself. I think the information is good. I don't see anything that's incorrect or misleading. I don't see, I think, we have I don't know if the audience has this in front of them, but there's a little bit of a flow chart here that talks about the local options tax. It talks about what it is in a very simple manner.
I don't have very many printed.
There is a packet here, which is about 6 pages long, and talks about it in a little bit more detail. I would say the 3 of these are somewhat redundant. Like the information that is on this is found in the other packet that I'm showing you right now. And then there's another packet of FAQs, frequently asked questions, And again, it's very redundant as well. So say that the three of them overlap quite a bit with each other.
Don?
Yeah.
And the reason for the redundancy is, different people grasp things differently. So people that are more graphic oriented, there's a graphic. For people that are more black and white, written word, there's a FAQ, and then there's a presentation deck to sort of blend them both. So these are just options for the select board to consider. And the reason why I mentioned Wednesday to Don is if we do want to start providing information to folks, pie for breakfast would be the ideal opportunity to do it. And so we could have a couple of these, one of these, whatever the select board wants available for pie for breakfast if you all have no concerns. And we don't expect you to review this tonight at the table, but if you could get back to us by Wednesday with any concerns, recommended edits, etc., then we could have this for pie for breakfast.
Is this in a slideshow format, this one?
PowerPoint.
Yeah, it's a deck. Is it PowerPoint or is it?
It can be a slide deck, yes.
Okay, great.
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
I just have one comment about we're blasting 75% stays in Morristown. That's not necessarily true because we've got the admin cost. So, I don't know how we present that. That, we're paying. So,
75% does stay in Morristown. The 25% goes
Well,
to the
Laura's
state.
right. Yeah, minus the
we have to pay administration fees. We don't know what it's gonna be, but again, being in marketing, I want to be careful about, it's not a clear 75 and I don't know,
Right.
I don't know if we do.
The same case with the pilot, because
Yeah.
the 25% goes towards pilot payments, which in turn is supposed to be reimbursed to municipalities, and there's no way for us to figure out what that calculation is either.
Right, but yeah, so I don't, it's a minor thing, but, and I think maybe just in talking about it that we mentioned that, it could be 73%, just, so people are aware it's not a clean,
75% minus administrative costs. Is that what Jeff Carr called it? Administrative costs or administrative fees?
just think people need to be aware.
Processing fees.
But we should be able to find that information somewhere else and know roughly what that number is from another community. right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I understand what you're
Well, yeah,
saying.
it's all the pages and, and talking with people, it's not necessarily a huge amount, but we still, as Jerry says, we need to have all the details out there and.
Right, but I don't disagree, but I'm saying that information should be readily available
It's dependent on how many.
how many
Different-
receipts we provide.
Admissions.
Yeah, so a big like Guy's Farmer Market, that'll all be consolidated. But if there's one-offs here and there, and there's a lot of those, that we know the amount and we can provide that, but there's no way to know like how many people will be submitting on any given quarter.
But I think to Richard's point, we're not the first town to do this. So we do have other towns that we could get a feeling for what that number is. But it's a good point, Ron.
Yeah, well, and another thing that was brought up to me in talking with people is, the one thing that people aren't, and I hadn't thought about it was, that for businesses that have supplies, it's actually in another way a tariff for them, because if they're ordering supplies like cleaning supplies, napkins that they're not selling, they're paying 1% on that. And it was brought up to my attention, somebody was saying, if we need to buy equipment for their particular processing, and this is restaurant, that they're going to get charged 1%. And they expressed huge concern to me because they've got another cost in the back end. Food costs are 33% up already. And then with credit card fees. So it's reducing their margins even that much more. And it's a hassle for them that, yeah, they can send it somewhere else, but now they've got to move it. And it really affects more of restaurants who have more supplies, producers who, have got to buy.
So we're moving more
Equipment.
into conversation of
Well-
whether LOT is good or bad versus how we want to disseminate the information. So I'd just like to stick with the
Well-
dissemination of the information.
Everybody, there have been people in here that are very, that it's a consumption tax, but it's also a business tax, and I'm not sure how we. I talk to people about that, so people need to understand there's more to this tax than just.
Yeah.
The people that walk in the door paying the 1%, and I don't know how we get that across, but I can tell you. Quite a few businesses, it's on their minds and are watching it very closely as to whether. They can afford to do businesses in this town, and it's very concerning to me. So people need to be aware of that it's not just you paying, it's behind the businesses are paying it,
There's-
so, yeah.
I would say there's a lot of different tangents to this that I'd rather not
Yeah.
get into again tonight. We've discussed this, but
Be brought up.
I think
you're right. So just in terms of where we started this conversation, so we have these flyers, we have this packet. Are we good with getting back to administration by, say, Wednesday? Giving ourselves a chance to read through it, get back to them on how we feel about this? And then also deciding how we want to disseminate this information?
That's kind of where my question was going to be about how is it going to be distributed? And I agree, I like having the different forms because one's a very straightforward, information-centric FAQ, which is great. This has a little bit more visual, but it's more of a PowerPoint. And this is a great graphic. So depending on how one picks up information. So I think it's important to have these available. Certainly, I see them being on the town's website, certainly see them being on the town's Facebook page, any other social media that they may have. It's factual information, so I'm wondering, do we want to do a postcard to registered voters with the information? And I'm thinking more along a postcard that would have this graphic because it's succinct and explains it pretty clearly. I think it's important enough of an issue that there will be a consistent information provided.
I think we'd have to have a cost because postcards are wicked expensive to send to every, registered voter. And I think, spending a lot of money to make a lot of money. I just want to be careful about that. It's a sensitive subject. So if we start blasting in an enormous amount of money, it's going to make people angry, I think. That we want to get the information out without turning it into a propaganda tour, and it's a fine line. So that's
I'm talking a postcard sent to,
it's 60 cents a piece, the mail.
So we can find out that information. We can find out how many.
That's all I'm
addresses
asking
there are.
for. Let's get our numbers,
We can find out how much that is. Richard?
the cost.
Maybe I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but the only concern I have around this information and going back to the administration on Wednesday is that it doesn't give us an opportunity to have a discussion, because I could bring an idea and then it may or may not resonate with you, and it might not be something you like, and vice versa. So that's my only, is we won't have an opportunity to look at it together in public before it is put for pie for breakfast on Saturday.
Oh, well, we could do it in phases too, then we don't have to have everything. We can have.
But if all I'm saying is if I go in with an idea and I say, I don't like this graphic, change it to this,
Oh, I
but
see.
you're behind 100%.
Okay.
And then on Saturday, it ends up being a different way than how it's presented. That's just my thought is. We don't want to present something that it's Laura's idea or it's Leah's idea or it's my idea. That doesn't work for me.
We're in a time crunch. We've got to have something for.
Right. I think but what I'm saying is for the most part, I think this is a good thing. The only thing that, I don't know if this is an appropriate time to say it, but I think that it should also have something about where the funds would go. on here, if that's something we're gonna present.
On this sheet,
Yes,
because it does in the others.
it does in here, but it doesn't in there. So that's my only,
It's a huge question.
that's my only comment about that.
You know,
Well, I think,
we haven't decided that yet, have we?
I think what I would suggest we do is read through this for purposes of factual content. So that what we, and then make something available for Wednesday or for Saturday. But by Wednesday, get back to administration if we have any concerns about something that we think is wrong or not.
Well-
correct.
But then we don't have an opportunity to
We don't have an
discuss
opportunity to
it
discuss it
together if it's.
Well, my understanding of open meeting law is that that this can be discussed via email. That the changes to this information can be discussed, so we can group email. You know, it's probably not the most efficient, but we're not violating open meeting law, and I certainly don't want to come in here again on Wednesday. So, I mean, you know, so if somebody has a change, I mean, I think that's the best way.
I'm not sure we can do that. I'm not sure we can have that discussion.
You know, for information, we can't make.
What do you think, Judy?
Not that I'm aware.
Yeah,
I don't believe so.
the only time we've been able to do that is when we've had that deliberative session that was wide open. You know,
There's
we
no
were able
money
to-
involved, it's just information on it.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, that's not my understanding. I've
We can look into that, but
Yeah.
if I may,
disseminating information.
you often tell admin to do things and with your direction, and then we get it done. I understand this is more sensitive, but I was hoping based upon your review tonight that you would see that this is fact-based. You know, there might be additional, like Richard, that's a good point. There was another one that we were circulating draft form that did have
Okay.
everything. But we can't really put that in there affirmatively until later tonight. We make you all make a decision. About, you know, what you want it to go towards. But we can make these edits if you have the trust that we'll get it done. We might call you up. I might call you up and say, hey, Richard, you know, we looked at your recommendation and you know, we only have limited space on this infographic, so we feel like these other things are more important. Discuss it with you, but
Judy, are we printing these in-house? What are your thoughts? What kind of numbers are we looking at printing?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. Decide.
I'm just getting information out to you folks as quickly as we can for Saturday. But right now I was gonna print them in-house.
So I'm just wondering if we do a minimal number initially for Saturday, and then take into consideration if there are, you know, because I do think most people are digital, and after the 10th, we're not going to have a lot of places other than here and meetings to really, you know, have the information. We can have it at the library. There's some places, but you know, most everybody's on front page forum, and that's the bigger. So even though we have to have some print, I don't think will be our main advertising, but we've got to have something for Saturday.
So
Well-
pie for breakfast, we've done that twice now. What were the numbers that we had for attendance, just so we have some idea as to what we're thinking, like 150 people was the most we had?
No, not even that many. We did not go over 100 at either one of the events. I would say 60-ish.
So if we had 100
So-
copies of these,
Yeah,
that
we
would be
did.
enough.
We've made copies in the past for pie for breakfast for various things. So we can certainly be a good judge of how many we should make.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay making that, you know, be under 100, but
So I guess what I would suggest is for the board to take their time, read through this, and if they have deletions or things that they see that are wrong, let administration know. I don't think this is the time for giving your comment. I don't think it's time for additions, you know, adding extra stuff that haven't had a chance to discuss, but we've had we'll all have had a chance by Wednesday to look through this. Personally, I've looked through it, as I've already said. I think it's fairly, I applaud administration. This is pretty black and white as far as I'm concerned.
Thanks again, Phil.
May I?
Yeah, Jordan.
No, go ahead.
Just a couple of points. One, I think I've had the chance to read these through a few times while I'm sitting here tonight. I think they're fine. I don't have a problem with taking till Wednesday, and if Richard or Laura or Don or Leah, or if I see something different, to pass that on to the administration, and I trust the administration to make the tweak. And we're talking about tweaks here. I don't think we're talking about structural changes. I trust Brett and Judy to take in and input and deal with it. So that's point one and point two. Point three is I agree we do not need a lot of these. I'm not sure how many people would print these, given that they're color. And I'm not suggesting we do black and white. I think we need color. But if we had, like Don said, 100 ready for Pi Day of either this or the tweaked version of this, people want to take one, they take them. If we've got leftovers, Laura suggests we put some at the library. That's great. And then if the library says, hey, we're running out, Judy runs another 15 or 20 or whatever it is. So we continue to have a stock, but we don't end up with 250 of these sitting around on March the 4th or whatever the magic day is, that are now going to be shredded or thrown away or whatever. I appreciate the work that the administration has done. This is all good. And I would also agree to the fact that we need all three because they each reach a different learning style, so to speak. Some people, and I've said it before, people have said it before, people will glue to one of these and they won't look at the other two, and that's fine. Or they can look at one and maybe they say, now I'll go look at the FAQs. So that's my 2 cents. I think we should just get going.
Yeah. Just thought of a really quick one, that, if we can somehow, QR codes are big and, you put for more information. So we just direct them so that they're not, we don't send them looking. That, I think that would be invaluable on these, whether it's a QR code or, I like QR codes because I just go to it.
QR code or URL, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a quick, and that way we can, Richard, what you're saying, I think is very important, is people want to know where the money's going. So they can go to the link to the website. So I think that's the big key.
Leah?
I do have a couple of edits, which I'll share with Brent and Judy. I do wonder, not on the graphic one, but on both the more informational heavy ones, if we can include the estimate of what each one of these local option taxes is estimated to raise, so that folks can see what the estimate for the meals and alcohol is, what the estimate is for the rooms, what the estimate for the sales is. Because that's a key question that I have looking through it is, well, how much would we actually raise? And I don't see it in the FAQ necessarily either. I see the overall amount, but not broken down.
Yeah, I'm adamantly against that because I think it's so speculative. And once you put a number out there, they hold you to it.
Let her finish.
Until she goes
I
fast.
think as long as we make it clear that it's an estimate and it's a conservative estimate. And it's what we're judging or what we're basing our decision upon. It's what we're basing our recommendation upon.
You had something?
And this is in addition, not necessarily related to Pi Day, but down the road, I think it might be helpful on the town website if a person could say, okay, well, how much is this going to cost me? And this is my budget, my disposable budget. This is what I spend on eating out. This is what I spend on rooms. This is what I spend on sales. And they could figure out how much a local option tax would cost them, and then be able to see, if we didn't have a local option tax, what would my property tax be? And they can compare. My property tax may cost $300, but if we have a local option tax, I'm not going to get as much of a property tax hit. How much would I have to spend
To equal
to equal that out?
Yeah.
So it's an Excel spreadsheet that you can plug in the numbers. But I think that way it could help folks realize it's $1 on $100. And they can figure out how it will impact them based on their budget.
Anything else? Leah?
I think that's it for now.
Good.
I just have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I just want to be sure that we're all clear that we are not making this decision. That our job as the select board is to put things in front of the taxpayers to vote on. So I personally, I think we have to be careful that not all of us are in full support of this. I'm in support of putting it on the board, but to say that we're all behind this and we're all, yes, we want this, I have a problem with that.
Yep.
We're putting it to the voters, and if you think it's a great idea, it's your personal opinion. It's not that of the board.
I wanted to clarify when I stated decision, we made the decision to put it on the ballot.
Yes.
And part of that information that informed the decision to put it on the ballot included the estimates.
Yeah, and there's nothing on any of these papers that talks about
Just-
about how the select board individually feels about this, how each of us feels about it.
Leah, I'm sorry. Dan.
Yeah, go ahead.
When the numbers you're talking about, which we're all, are we talking about Jeff Carr's second estimate of numbers? Let's be clear on what numbers we're talking about before. So we've had conversations about different ones. So I want to be sure that if we're doing that, and I don't have an opposition to it,
Correct.
I want to make sure that we agree on the source data.
I would use Jeff Carr's, the estimate that was in the report, Jeff Carr's, the economist report, which was a conservative estimate, and he provided two figures. One was for a shortened year, I think it was 3 quarters, and then one would be for the next full year.
And it was
Yep.
2024 is what I'm showing, because that's really significant.
So
We
I'm
don't
asking-
have numbers for
I'm asking you a
2025
question,
yet.
Jeff Carr's report, and that sheet had some different numbers on them.
Yeah.
Right, and we don't have 2025 yet, which that's why I'm hesitant about quoting numbers, because across the state, the numbers are way down as far as tourists, and so I just don't want to cut our nose off to spite our face and be touting stuff that we can't back up. And
It's-
that's why I'm leery about, you start spouting that we're gonna make all this money. And there, I just think there's danger in that.
And it's worth noting that the two sets of numbers are very, very close.
Yeah.
And there's not much difference between them, but I think using Jeff Carr's numbers is reasonable. And remember the sales and the alcohol in rooms comes from 2024, but the rooms do not. The rooms come from 2020,
19.
which would 2020 is the last year we had, which was the COVID year. So, but anyways, yeah, I think that's a wise idea. Go ahead.
Judy, probably the best one to answer the question. Is Jeff Carr's second 9-page report up on the website?
It's already up on the website.
Okay, then I would strongly support that, because that now has a place where a number that we would print on one of these can be backed up with a substantiated by Jeff Carr's report.
Right, do a footnote.
It's a number we've already put out there, so we're not confusing people.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, are we good?
We can even put a footnote
Hmm.
referencing that these are estimates, economist estimates, and possibly copy and paste directly from the report.
Mhm.
Because I think there was more than just partial in first fiscal year. So I'll take a look at that again.
Yeah. Again, I'd leave that to yours and Judy's discretion, but I not only should we know, the 5 of us agree with, or at least the majority of us agree that those are the numbers we're gonna use, but what the source of them are, though, not only that we're gonna put numbers, and we've gotta have, in my opinion, we've gotta have numbers that we can back up by. I mean, a respected economist has done these estimates, and they are estimates, there's no doubt about it, so that's why I would support using Jeff Carr's.
Hey,
Just
thank
to
you.
be clear, I don't want it on the paperwork. I'm happy to direct people, but I think I just want to put that out there, that I don't want numbers on here. I think it's just, we're asking for trouble, because you throw a number out there, but I say we direct them, here's to this report, QR code, but I just, and it gets too cumbersome. There's too much info. That's my input, but
Well, I kind of like the idea, and we've already put the numbers out there. They're already on the website. So, I mean, the public has already had access to them, so I don't see any reason not to.
I would put them on the FAQ and you can direct them to the report.
I think this would be.
So could we get a head nod so administration's clear, like what the select board wants is the majority?
Laura, we know where you feel, George?
Well, printed copies for, just to get it all in one place, printed copies for Pi with the QR code to direct.
Okay, let me be clear, what I think I'm nodding my head on, which is probably what everybody else is gonna agree. We're agreeing that we're gonna make printed copies of all three of these. We're agreeing that we're going to put on the FAQ Jeff Carr's estimated numbers from his second report. We're agreeing that all three of these will put up on the website. And we're agreeing that if any of us have any additional edits that we'd like to make, we're going to pass those on to Brent and Judy by early Wednesday. And we'll yield final judgment about how to tweak it to the administration. Is that what I'm nodding my head on?
Thank you for the summary, George.
Pretty good, George.
Yes, it's good.
That was good.
Yes.
Thank you, George.
Yes,
Yes.
once I
Thanks.
clear.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to old business.
On.
Go, go ahead. Right.
Jerry Throne. I have one comment on this handout. And that is, I think you need to make it clear to anybody that would be reading this, that the meals and alcohol are combined. You cannot vote for one without the other. And that's not clear in the way this was put together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
a tough one.
Ed, come on up.
If I could just reply to that. So the statute breaks it out into three. And then, but when you're trying to provide information about the four individual taxes, you have to break it out into four. So we've struggled with that throughout the drafting process. And I want to thank Judy for her patience as I keep coming back to her to try to create things in a more, because I've been very aware of that and tried to strike a balance. But it's impossible to share the specific taxes broken out as the state statutes require us to the residents to vote on it.
Can I make a
Perhaps
quick fix comment
Can we,
to solve that, and I'll do it to Judy.
okay, go ahead, Jerry.
Perhaps a footnote, leave it the way it is with the four, but a footnote or an asterisk for the alcohol and an asterisk at the meals. At the bottom, just say, they have to be together.
To be voted together.
Yes.
Go ahead.
That's what I.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I agree with Laura's points, pretty much all of them tonight. I think that this will certainly be seen as the town government's endorsement of the idea. It cannot possibly be seen as totally even-handed. I think that's inevitable because who else is going to be putting this out? In terms of doing this on a reasonable budget, certainly don't mail anything. You have front page form on a frequent basis to remind people that it's there. And you have a web page. And the beauty of that is if you want to alter the web page, you can do it on an immediate and almost continual basis. So you have flexibility and you have eyeballs. You know how you treat junk mail. I do. So anything mailed, don't mail anything. Something came up that I hadn't really thought of. I mean, I'm enthusiastic. I'm in favor of it. But this issue of we get 75% less some unknown and unknowable amount of money, it's, I'm starting to think what we need is something in the state legislature to give the towns a break. I mean, just let them do the administration. What this other is, I don't think I understand at this point. That's okay. So I don't want... When I suggested that you consider a few weeks back how you would present it to the voters, you did that, and the result is mostly pretty great. But I had in mind something more even-handed, and this doesn't feel even-handed to me. So continue the discussion about that, and that's a reason to make most of your presence on the internet, because you can do that as you go along. Printed materials, fine, it's very pretty. But I guess that's pretty much
Okay, thank you, Ed.
it.
That's
I-
2 minutes as well.
I think her comments have to be incorporated into how this is done. Because if you don't, I can guarantee you that a flood of people will drown you right out
Thank you, Ed.
with
you very much.
the negative comments.
Other comments? Yeah, come on up.
Evelyn Throne, the 25%, yeah, I'm a little unclear on that too. And I wondered where that might be included in the information, because I can't even find it right now, but it talks about some portion of that 25% being used, reimbursed back to the town or whatever, used as part of the town budget, but money. But I think that needs to be at least rudimentarily explained somewhere on this.
Right.
How it could come back, what percentage comes back, how it could how that is allowed to be used.
Thank you, Evelyn. Okay, other,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I saw it somewhere. I don't.
it comes back through the pilot program, which is payment in lieu of taxes. So basically, it's a state-owned property in the town of Morristown. What they're doing is they're going to give us a portion of that in lieu of property taxes. So it's going to come back to us.
Any run spots. Yeah, well.
We get pilot, yeah, which,
Oh,
Yeah.
we'll follow that up later. I'm just curious about that part. Okay.
okay, other comments? Anybody else for the first time? Come on up.
The other thought I had is a much more
Ed Lovington again?
Yeah, Ed Lowington, yeah. Is there anybody who doesn't know me? Come on.
The minute
Uh,
taker.
There's one person out there.
Yes. And I'm just starting to talk now, so hit the button, okay? On a farther ranging and much more speculative idea, I think we can start killing two birds with one stone with this local options tax. I suggest that we start thinking about the idea of requiring anyone who gets town property tax funds show that they can move in a direction of supporting incoming visitors who can help support a better local options tax revenue by saying, we will not support you with tax money if you cannot show us statistics, hard numbers that tells us what you're doing to enhance the town's reputation as a destination. If you can't do that, we've habitually been supporting you on some of these discretionary funds. They're not on the budget. I think you know what I mean, but they are on the ballot. I'm not in favor of those at all. Anyway, I consider that enforced charity. But aside from that entirely, I think if you cannot show us what you can do to make the town vibrant and attractive, don't look for tax monies now or in the future. And so that the remaining entities, mostly nonprofits, will help us get more tax money from out of town. There's a speculative thought to think
Thank you,
about.
Ed. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
I just want to add one quick, and talking to Montgomery, so people know, the divide used to be 70-30, and Montgomery and a lot of them went to the state and said, hey, you're sitting on too much money. So they did change it. There is a push to change it again, because there's still a lot of money there. So I just want everybody to realize that there is some movement and that there are entities out there who have done a lot to LOT, who are watching that, and there's a constant effort to get more money to the towns.
Okay, I'm gonna, bring this to a close. We started this talking about education initiatives and we're kind of moving beyond that, so. Old business, continuation of the manager's proposed budget discussion. So at our meeting last week, we talked about the budget at length. We talked about a number of issues. I know we talked about the concerns that we have about the size of the budget. And in particular, I think most of our time, my recollection was most of our time spent on the special audit. About some different aspects, how to bring that budget down. The budget is still proposed at 9.6%. I don't think that's changed, Tina.
Yeah, it has.
Oh, it
It's
has,
9.5 now.
right?
Well, we were just notified today that our county tax is about $5,500 less than what they had said it was going to be when it got finalized. So it is down 0.1%.
And
Thankfully.
that's still an estimate from the county. So I just want to be clear, like we're working on a firmer, more recent estimate.
Don't write it in pen, as my mother used to say.
Is there anything you want to add to these discussions, Brent, at this point, before we kind of chime in and continue from last week?
Well, do I want to?
I'm willing to carry it forward, but.
You know what? I'll come out and I'll state it. I have concerns. I totally understand why over a 9% increase is not palatable. When I brought this to you all, I was very clear. I know you guys will be making changes. It was very difficult to be looking at these numbers week after week, day after day. And so I totally understand, why you're considering taking all articles off. I also just want to reiterate that we as a community can't continue to keep cutting to the bone year after year and be able to steady year over year what we're looking at for potential increases. George, I think, said it best the last select board meeting. I tried to explain my concern of, ups and downs, cutting, and then having to add it in the next year. But I understand why the select board needs to be considering these options. Jerry Throne last week made a suggestion that the select board consider, rather than a half point for the two funds, capital equipment funds, that it all go into infrastructure. And I have to say, if you're looking for the greatest bang for the buck for the taxpayers, I actually think that's prudent. But I also understand, Laura's spoken to me that she has concerns with taking things, removing totally, the line items, articles for capital equipment for fire and the highway, because the taxpayers see the benefit of that. And so I can understand Laura's concern and other select board members that might be feeling the same way. But I think the best bang for the buck as far as return on the taxpayers actually would be to put more into the roads and the sidewalks, considering the state that they're in and we're trying to dig out of that hole. And then finally, I just want to thank you all publicly for these hard discussions that you're having in public. This is what democracy is about, and there's nothing easy about democracy or about municipal budgets. Morristown is not. If you're following news around municipal budgets, I think, Leah, you brought it up last week. Town after town in Vermont are experiencing 6, 8, 9% initial increases. So just want to thank you all for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Brent. Well, I, for one, I threw out the idea of negating all 4 of those special articles. I guess one of them has already been negated, the Conservation Commission, but negating the other 3, the 1 cent for fire, the 1 cent for highway, and the 2 cents for bridge and highway. It does bring the number down to 4.2 or perhaps 4.1%, 4.1%, which is a very nice number, given what we're hearing other towns struggle with around the state. But I also think, I had a chance to go home after last week and think about this and sleep on it a little bit. And those are some pretty tough cuts. These are savings accounts. They're savings accounts for the future. And as much as 4.1% sounds wonderful, the knife is probably cutting too deep. And for me, I think something closer to the middle might make more sense. Whether it's a 0.5 cent for fire, a 0.5 cent for highway, and a cent for bridge and highway, that would bring it down to 6.8% overall, which is not double digit. It's not necessarily close to double digit, but it's 6.9% or 6.8%. But maybe, as you're saying, Brent, a better bang for our buck is to put the money towards put 2 cents towards bridge and highway and nothing towards the others. At least that gives our superintendent, who's no longer here with us, gives him a chance to work with some money next summer if the LOT should fail. I mean, so much of this is going to come down to the LOT and whether it passes or not. I mean, that's the elephant in the room. We might as well talk about it, right? It's out there. It's a huge amount of, when we talk about how much money we're deciding here, we're talking a couple $100,000, and the LOT is over $1 million. So one replaces the other pretty quickly. But we're really I think just talking about this right now. Those are my thoughts. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with cutting all 4. In fact, I know I'm not comfortable with cutting all 4 articles. I'll leave it at that. Anybody else?
I have comments.
No, go ahead.
First of all, I want to say that these funds are here because Dennis, people have come in and requested them because they were really tired of having to come in here and beg for money for every radio. And so that's how these got formed, which I think is really important for our departments, that, we're showing them support and don't put them in this terrible position of having to come. It is one of the first proactive things we've ever done, and I think that's really key. I do think, and Brent, were you mentioning combining highway and bridge? Because highway capital is 1 cent and bridge and highway infrastructure is 1. Were those the two?
I was saying, if, in my opinion, the best bang for the buck for the taxpayer, if I forget who had brought up maybe a 0.5 penny for fire department capital equipment fund, a 0.5 penny for highway department capital equipment fund, and 1 penny for bridge and highway is one of the options. I'm saying that for 1 year only, and based upon Tina's analysis, we won't need these funds for next fiscal year. For 1 year only, I think the better bang for the buck would, for all of it, the total of 2 cents to remain with bridge and highway infrastructure, essentially. And that's my opinion. I mean, I understand, Laura, believe me, it's disturbing for me to be even talking about this, because it is important to fund these equipment funds.
There is 115,000, correct me if I'm wrong, sitting in fire. So
Well, there is,
increase, decrease, how much is in there right now?
well, if you look under your capital budget, you'll see your capital
Okay.
equipment funds right now. $62,209 is estimated to be there at the end of 25-26 for fire.
For fire, okay, that's,
But
sorry.
fire is not scheduled to buy any equipment for at least 5 years.
But it gives them a little,
The whole purpose behind these funds was to help with a down payment so that when we financed a piece of equipment, we could finance less.
So I think we're talking equipment in different terms here. These are capital equipment purchases, $10,000 or more. So it doesn't include, a $1,000 beeper.
because that was, that, and again, this is a whole other thing, that was, part of fire's, comments, but given what you're saying, then that does make sense that, there's a little bit of money there. So, compounded interest. I will say, I wanted to talk about the Conservation Commission that, I'm sorry, and I've heard that there was some discussion about reducing it because knowing Ron Stancliffe, he has fought for this for a very, very long time. And this is the kind of thing that when a piece of land comes up, if there's not money there, we lose it. And I would, I know your board voted against it, but I really hate to see that go down to nothing. Because it's always much harder to get it back on than to reduce it way down. And then I have some other questions on something else, but we want to stay on this right
I
now.
want to stay on those special
Okay.
articles right now.
I would be good with, for this year, doing the 2% on bridge and highway.
So 2 cents.
2 cents. Am I saying I got percentage in my head? 2 cents for this year, given the information, on fire and highway then. And since conservation, because I think that still shows that we were committed. And that is that's our big expenditure. So, and that helps reduce, so we're not cutting our nose off to spite our face.
I think that's wise. Yeah. I think maybe that's the direction we're headed into. Anybody else? No, George?
I agree with what's been said before about the 2 cents onto the Bridge and Highway Infrastructure Fund. For the points that Tina made, that we've got no purchases scheduled in fire on our capital equipment out through 29-30. At which point, if Tina's numbers are perfect, which they won't be because no one can do 5 years out and get it to the dollar, we'd have $412,459 in the fire equipment capital fund at the end of 29-30. If there's a place where we're not going to put a cent or a half cent, that's the place to not put it. I then look at the highway department, and while they do have purchases in 26-27 scheduled to the amount of $125,000, they've got $197,493 coming in, according to Tina's work, which would still leave us with not a lot of money, but $72,493 in the black in the highway department. They've then got $150,000 scheduled after that for 27-28. We've got room to work with that. That's a year out.
We can put the penny back in.
We could put the penny back in and get it there, or however we are. We've got room to work with that. We don't have really room to work with the Bridge and Highway Infrastructure Fund because we know Jordan has asked for 5.5, and we're not giving him 5.5 under this proposal. We're giving him 2, which is, I think, the best we can do to bring to the voters. Is it the best we can do for the roads? That answer is no. But I don't think we can put the extra 3.5 cents into this budget and feel comfortable that the voters agree with that idea. So I also support the holding up on fire, highway, the conservation fund by their own action, and putting 2 cents on the Bridge and Highway Infrastructure Fund and reducing the 6.8 now, Tina?
It was,
It was?
yeah, it will be 6.8 if you.
If we do that, okay. It's a high number, but it's going to affect property taxes. There's no doubt about it. But if we cut any deeper than this, and I think this is what Brent was talking about that I mentioned last week, we're going to be short 4 cents, and then we're going to put it back in 28, and now we've got a bigger hole to climb out of. And I really don't want to climb out of a bigger hole. This is enough of a hole to deal with. I think this is the necessary hole. Any deeper, and we need a ladder.
Richard?
I agree with everything you're saying, and I think we're with the highway, Jordan's got a good momentum going right now, and if we, I mean, even if we're not giving him what he needs, but if we take away, even if we give him 1 cent, it's to the comments that were made last week, he's gonna be filling potholes with hot patch, and then we're really no far ahead. We're actually in the hole with the ladder that George talked about, so I feel the 2 cents is the way to go and the fire and the highway will be okay, but not perfect, and that's the spot that we're in, so that's.
Leah?
After Tina's presentation last week, it made me feel more comfortable that we could do this for 1 year only. To put 2 cents to bridge and highway infrastructure. So I'm in agreement with the rest of the board. I do want to be careful that it is 1 year only. It's a hard cut. It's a hard cut.
Before we get into other parts of the budget, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the special articles? Conversation we're having? Right.
What you've ended up with sounds like a pretty good decision.
They know
all
you,
the way
Ed, but I'm
around.
just gonna say your name anyways.
Ed Lowenton, same as the last time. Sounds like a pretty good decision. For one thing, it demonstrates that you can and are willing to cut the budget a little bit by a meaningful number. And that's going to look good in terms of getting it passed, which is really what you want to see without having to do it over and over again. The other is, while you shouldn't be kicking any infrastructure maintenance or infrastructure costs down the road, because that's always going to make it more expensive next time that you come to it. You're in the midst of a highway and bridge renewal program, which is the most visible of the improvements. And again, bringing people to the town, it helps the town look good and feel good to be here. And I think it's not unreasonable to trust that you're going to make that up again out of the local options tax next year, which is almost certainly going to pass.
Thank you, Ed. Any other comments? Okay, that was in regards to the budget. That was the big issue I wanted to make sure we talked about tonight. So I think we're moving forward in that regard. Are there other budget considerations?
I have a couple of questions that.
Yep.
In the budget, there list,
Where are you in the budget?
pay revenue budget worksheet under tax income.
Revenue, tax income?
Yeah, I don't have a number, Don. I mean,
Which
it's
page?
a one.
It's page
One
one.
under, yeah. Revenues, page 1. There is a pilot reimbursement. Can you speak to where's this money coming from? We're already getting pilot, where it's Agency of Natural Resources, but where's that money coming from and where can it be used?
It's an annual payment from the state. And that has, it's been one of the revenue sources that we've experienced pressures with, because and other municipalities are experiencing this too. And we will probably be speaking through Vermont League of Cities and Towns to bring this up to the state. But several municipalities that have had their grand list appraisal done in the last couple of years have received reduced pilot funds. And there's enough municipalities that experiencing that the question for the state is if all these municipalities are going through, updates on the grand list assessments, how can all the municipalities be losing funds from the state? So it's an annual, it might come in. How often does it come in, Tina?
Yeah, usually around in November-ish.
Where's this money coming from? Is this from LOT?
No,
Oh.
that's-
ANR. Agency of Natural Resources.
So
It's-
what,
This is,
what's the assessment made?
it's, the pilot program is the state's way, that they use the LOT to reimburse us for property taxes on our grand list.
I
They're
understand
state-
that, but where LOP money's coming from? So where's this money coming from? 58,000.
I don't know where the 58,000, but
Yeah.
we're saying pilot and let's know what we're talking about. Pilot is payment in lieu of taxes.
Yeah.
So for example, this, no, State Office of Buildings is not a good one in Morristown, it's owned by Sunny.
We gave.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Transportation. It's
The
30-something
Duham-
properties.
The Duhamel land that we gave to the state, they're paying us back for that.
That's the information I need.
That's, they're reimbursing us because we don't have that on the grand list anymore. So that's what the pilot program does, is it?
Okay, I was trying to figure out where
That's
was
what
this, because
yeah.
the LOT also gives us money back, but I was like, where's this?
No, it's,
Okay.
that's no one what pilot stands for.
Yeah, but it's still gotta be funded. So my other,
Would the state
um,
garage property be part of that too, up on Brooklyn Street?
I'm just curious, I just saw that, and because the pilot is being thrown out in LOT, that there's other ways of getting these reimbursements and what I was looking at, and 58,000 is, that's a significant money, so I was just curious, and so that people don't get it confused. My other question, and this came up,
Where are you?
same page,
Okay.
down in, intergovernmental. We've talked about this, because the village uses, our zoning services and village clerk. And there has been talk about that it was the same for years, and that just like the EMS, was the village paying proportionally the right amount? And at the time, I know Todd was having to spend, he was having meetings over at the village, over at the village trustees. He was doing double meetings. So I just wanted to talk about that and see if we've talked about that. It does look like they are proposed, it's increased. And, because most of the salaries are being footed by the Morristown taxpayers. So that it's a weird trying to figure out, and again, I go back to Todd, that he was required to have 2 meetings, that he was doing everything double in his processing, and yet they were paying just such a small part of his fee, and we were paying more of it. So I just am curious about that balance. Do we think that balance is correct, that the village is paying an adequate amount of money for a zoning director and the clerk and treasury? That's the question. Does that make sense?
So I've had several conversations with Scott, and he's open to the village increasing their contribution for the zoning and planning administrator. That is an estimate. It has not been hardened, so I don't want to say that that's something that, I mean, we've come to what I would consider a pretty close verbal agreement on it, but I want to take a couple more meetings with Scott. He did have concerns. The service has to be on behalf of the village. It can't be paid through utility. So he wanted to make sure that there was an arrangement that continued in the future where services would be provided to the village that, were fair to the village taxpayers. Scott has also, brought questions back to me about, well, what percentage of the permanent revenue comes from the village? And honestly, I've not had time to do that analysis. You all see the data I'm trying to provide you more and more frequently. That's one that I've not had time to get into because our permitting system is so antiquated and not really automated. So there's lots of questions that the village trustees and Scott could ask us about the value that they receive. And I've not been able to come up with a solid number that I would say to the select board. I think that the value is X amount. So all this to say that Scott has been a great partner in negotiating, and the figure that you're seeing in the budget is based upon the last communication we had and just firming up that the planning and zoning administrator will continue to do certain services on behalf of the village.
So, thank you for that, because there never has been a full analysis and, you know, figuring out exactly how many hours are attributed, so, so that's not something we're gonna have, but it's working, which is important. That we're evaluating it, so if we get $4,000 more for zoning, that's huge, so. You know.
Yeah, it's worth noting, it's a 50% increase.
Yeah.
It's $4,000, but it is a 50%.
No, it's not. Don, can I speak to it?
Yeah.
We look at, there's two lines for village. One is for zoning services, and it goes from $8,000 in the current 25-26 revenue to $15,000 in 26-27. That's a $7,000 increase. That's almost a double.
I have 12,000.
I had 12,000.
Well, it has been updated since. You might not be looking at the most correct, but George is correct. It is 15,000.
Okay, so it's almost 100%.
Thank you, George.
And then, I lost my line. And then there's a second line, which is village for clerk treasurer reimbursement. That has gone from $9,300 in 25-26 to $9,750 in proposed 26-27 in Brent's proposed budget. Just certainly not the same increase that we saw in zoning, but it's going up.
Yep.
So I think Brent's doing a good job in dealing with those two with what we've got.
Well,
And
it's
Brent.
a partner who's willing to be fair and discuss these things. So it's equally Scott.
Well, this is good because this is something that's come up just like EMS come up every year and we never addressed it. So that's great that we're.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the page I'm looking at is dated 12/30/2025. So that was beyond when I was sitting in on meetings. This is documentation that was handed to the board.
Yeah, ours is 12/5. So
I thought I'd given you all updated.
it's okay. Yeah.
Mine of it did make it into my book.
Oh, maybe you forgot to come.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I clarify about mine? Yeah.
Sure.
That might complicate things. I'm debating if I want to keep my mouth shut.
Sarah Haskins, village clerk and treasurer. So my understanding, the zoning and the two are very different. How the clerk treasurer, and it's also assistant clerk, assistant treasurer, it's just a wash. You're in your expenses, there's going to be that exact amount of money in the town clerk treasurer ballot. So within the village budget, they vote for the village clerk, treasurer, assistant salary, the village residents. And it's just paid by the town because I'm a town, like they don't cut me a separate check. It's paid through our payroll here. So it's an in and an out. It's not a negotiation of you're getting a percentage back of my salary for the town. It's just a wash of income and expense for the clerk treasurer line item.
That's just for the clerk treasurer.
But it was under general government page 2, if you want to look.
Yes, thank you.
Under town clerk treasurer's office.
Yeah, you'll see village wage reimbursement and
Oh, I
it's the
see.
same exact dollar amount.
Okay, yeah.
So that they give us that money and then we pay it to, you know, the expenses associated with that, Sarah and Mitzi and whatever.
So, and why is it different than zoning? I mean, should we be getting a check? Can anybody?
That's why I almost didn't say it. I didn't want to complicate things. I think zoning, there's a line item for the zoning salary. Correct me if I'm wrong. I say it's 50,000 a year and the village is going to pay 5. You're getting a portion back of what you're paying the zoning administrator. Whereas with the clerk treasurer and the assistant clerk treasurer, we get paid 50,000 by the town, and then we get it paid an additional 5,000 as the village. It's on top of our wages as town clerk. It's a separate wage that's set by the trustees and voted on by the village.
So it's a separate
Voters.
municipality making a decision to pay the clerk and town clerk, an assistant clerk and the treasurer and assistant treasurer, whereas which is common with town clerks and whereas the funds that are being agreed upon from the village are to help truly help offset for planning and zoning.
Thank you, Sarah. Other comments, discussion regarding the budget? Okay, I'm going to come on up.
I have a question. Has seemed at Lowenton, it has seemed that there's a reluctance to address payroll issues. I haven't heard much about that. Has that something that's been quietly decided upon, that there will not be an opening of that box throughout these discussions?
Opening that box,
Of that whole
would
topic of what can be done. Frankly, I struggle, this is a question for Brent, going through the budget, I struggle to find where the problem is. There seems to be an awful lot of savings that have been taken where they could. What would you say is the primary driver of most of that 10% increase?
The special articles,
Excuse me?
the special articles.
Really?
Yes, if you look at the budget overview, our operating base budget, which is what pays all of our operations in the town, is only increasing 0.54% from last year, not even 1%.
The general budget is mostly at that number.
That's general operations, but if you add on like money for the roads and bridges and money for the highway equipment fund and money for the fire equipment fund, that's where you're getting your 9 point
Wow, that's a piece.
operating costs that's driving this. It's really lack of revenue.
It's lack of incoming revenue from various revenue sources from the state to and I highlighted that in my presentation, but
Right.
I'm not sure that I'm not grasping for certain what you mean by the 10%. Can you be more?
9.6.
9.6?
I'm rounding.
Oh, the overall budget increase is primarily because of revenue decrease.
So you're making that up in other ways.
Trying to pay that and reduce it by taking money away from special articles because there's no money left to take from operations.
Right.
That's what they're attempting to do.
And payroll could not be part of the discussion. You see an absolute tightness of that.
If I may,
Oh,
so several times a year, I look at various sources of data statewide, and it's complicated because somebody might have the same title between municipalities, but they have very different job descriptions. It also is impacted by years of service, total years of, experience in their field. So Tina, HR, and I are constantly looking at that. I've been negotiating a union contract for admin and EMS for now 22 months, I believe, since May of 2024. And we have three separate recognized unions. So if you want to address, right now, I personally know for sure that except for maybe 3 or 4 personnel that are below the median and maybe 3 personnel that are above the median, we are at a median for towns of similar sizes for our staff. So I understand the pressures countrywide around labor costs, but that's not even specific to municipalities. I think businesses too are seeing pressures, but especially when you get into specialized services like EMS, police, municipalities in Vermont are seeing a shortage of Class A CDL drivers. It's very difficult to hire HR with municipal experience, very hard to hire finance with municipal experience. So we're constantly looking at that. And that's because we have 3 separate contracts, one that's never been finalized, and we just keep trying to negotiate it. And then just this past summer, we signed a new police contract for another 3 years. And we experienced cost pressures like every other municipality in the state that has their own police force. And in February, we'll start to negotiate the highway contract. It isn't as simple that I can say, you know what, I see this person, and this person are above the median, so I'm going to give them a pay cut. We'd immediately be,
Well, you can't cut pay.
right.
You can't do that.
But we even freezing, because of these union contracts, we can't even freeze. We have to negotiate with unions. And unions are typically pretty transactional. And so if you're going to negotiate something away from union members, you usually have to give something up, unless there's a fear of major rifts. I'm being very blunt here. I'm probably saying more than I should, considering we're in the middle of union negotiations.
Really? Yeah.
But that's, I'm not, I understand why the town is concerned with the cost of labor, but we are a service industry, so that requires that we be labor intensive. And
Would you regard the town as primarily a labor intensive enterprise?
Yes. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And we're moving towards more technology that's offsetting costs for overtime and highway.
Yeah.
We're working on reducing overtime costs for police and for EMS, but those are the primary drivers.
That's interesting. The town's percentage or the ratio of labor to capital intensive or maintenance expenditures is in fact typical nationwide. It's about 50%, which someone pointed out on a front page forum post. But in fact, doing some further digging on describing it in all kinds of different ways, you come up with the fact that this town doesn't stick out.
No.
As far as that. I'm curious because I've made such a big deal about this. Does the longevity pay policy have anything to do with this?
Pretty soon.
So is he allowed to ask that final question? I didn't.
Final question, and then
This is, I'm just a question, it's not a statement. Does this, I've been making a big deal about this and I put it up on the website and all kinds of stuff where you look at an unnuanced, unrefined, across the board, many year in force, so-called longevity policy, and you end up with pretty strange numbers. This is considerably modified in most municipalities and in the federal government too, so that it doesn't do stuff like this. Do you regard the town's application of this strategy as in any way responsible for excessive labor costs?
So I just forwarded today from follow up to a couple of select board members' questions about the annual automatic increases combined with COLA. And, I come from the business world, 12 years at TD Bank, several years at Merrill Lynch and other publicly traded companies. And a lot of my salary is based upon performance. And,
That's what I'm trying to point out.
But in the municipalities, especially municipalities that have a union or multiple unions, we have 3. That is not the ordinary. What is normal is the structure that we have here. And I didn't quote myself in stating that to the select board. I doubled down and reached out to legal counsel who, after several months of negotiating, we brought in to help negotiate. And he negotiates a lot of municipal contracts in the state. And he's confirmed, I already knew it, but I wanted him to put it in writing so I could share it with the select board, that the structure that we have in our contracts is basic. It's the standard for municipalities.
not only Ed, I'm going to ask you, I've given you a lot of time to talk. And and I would just echo what Brent is saying. There's a big difference between working in the public sector and working in the private sector.
Yes.
And there's a whole, as you know, somebody, as you well know, that spent his career working in the public sector. You know, we didn't have the benefit of bonuses. We didn't have the benefit of raises. We didn't have the benefit of promotions. We didn't have the benefit of stock incentives, and so on and so forth. But what we did have working in the public sector is we did have STEP. And STEP did allow you to make a little bit more every year. Think about it. Think about hiring, whether it's a brand new truck driver or whether it's a first year EMS person or a first year teacher. You can give them COLA every year for the rest of their life. And they're going to be making the same salary for the rest of their life. The world that I live in, the country I live in, the state that I live in, doesn't seem to be one that aspires to making the same amount of money for the rest of their lives. And that's all COLA is going to give you. STEP does give you that added amount. Yes, your salary does go up, but I think most of us in this world that we live in expect to be making a little bit more and moving ourselves along as life goes on. So, you know, conceptually, I mean, I sat down and I was on the other side of the table. I wasn't administration. I wasn't the school board, but I negotiated for the teachers and you know, that was the understanding on both sides. We all kind of understood that. And I would say what was working in that field, in that education field, works very much so in the field that we're talking about right now as municipal employees, because they don't have those benefits that the private sector does. And we're talking about the, you know, potentially people that are very skilled, that are, you know, I have great respect for the guy. I was going to say the guy or the gal. Unfortunately, I don't think we have any women on the force right now in that highway department, but the guy who drives that huge truck by my property every day is doing a fantastic job. Maybe I can quibble a little bit about this and that, but I feel pretty good about the fact that the roads are taken care of as well as they are. And the longer we have that same individual working in town, the better they're going to get, is my assumption. I've been on this board for 4 years now, and I'm just constantly impressed with the expertise that takes place in this building, that takes place at our 2 highway garages, at our EMS building, our police department, and our fire department. And but that's a long-winded way of saying STEP really does make a lot of sense, conceptually, a lot of sense.
Can I ask one? I have a question, another budget question, just a real quick one. On advertising on page 2 under general government budget worksheet, why there was an $11,000 increase from budget to actual, and I see that we're doing 15,000. Can somebody speak to
Where are you
why?
again, Laura? I'm sorry.
Page 2 under
General government?
under general.
It's human resources,
Under advertising?
mostly.
Yeah, I'm just curious why we had such a huge increase. We had $11,000 in advertising, 11,500 actually. That's a significant amount of advertising. Why was that this year? And I see we're budgeting 15,000, so that seems more reasonable. What was driving all that advertising?
We had 3 police officer positions, very difficult to fill,
Staff.
but took a lot of advertising. We had HR director, we had an EMS chief, we had several EMS per diem positions. There's a lot.
Okay.
We lost a lot of personnel I hired soon after I came on board in 2024. I hired a new EMS chief from Stowe. Stowe hired her back as their new police chief. We've lost highway crew to Johnson. So we're constantly having to advertise.
So are there certain things we're required to do as far as posting in newspapers? And do we think that 15,000 is adequate to cover? I mean, we have a lot of new hires, so, you know, I'm always concerned when we technically go over budget, so that's, and it's not that much money, but it adds up, so I'm just curious as to.
Hopefully, the hires that we've made over the last year will be long-term. And, we're trying to base it upon actuals from the prior year and looking at, what years past, the turnover statistics are. So, I think this is more realistic. One thing that I've asked Tina is I ask her to prove to me a lot, what her calculations are based upon. Drives her nuts, but,
That was a big jump, and it caught my attention. Thank you.
Okay, before I move on, anything else on the budget? Okay, so continuation of the local options tax articles for the warning. So we have in front of us the suggested language for the 3 LOT articles. They are very similar in that the only thing that's different, of course, is what's bold-faced on here. And perhaps the part of the statute that is referenced. I can read one of these because this came in part out of a conversation. I think Leo was the one who had suggested the last part of this, but so the articles would read for sales, and it would be similar for meals and alcohol in rooms. It shall the town of Morristown assess a 1% sales tax pursuant to 24 VSA section 138B1 with revenue dedicated to capital projects, debt reduction, reserves for future capital and emergency needs, economic and community development, or municipal property tax relief without increasing total town revenues. The part that's added, provided that any such use of the revenue shall be reviewed and approved by the select board in publicly warned meetings. So there's that last part of that last sentence that has been added to each one. So how do we feel about that?
Done.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've had several conversations since our last meeting, and including questions from the observers, board members, and then other folks in town talking with me. And I am comfortable with taking that phrase, provided any such use of revenue shall be reviewed and approved by the select board in publicly warned meetings. I'm fine with removing that.
Okay.
Because my goal is to make it easy to understand and to make it clear. One question I have, and it will certainly have to go to the attorney to see if we can do that, is instead of a paragraph that lists these items, can we do it as a bullet point to help make it easier to read? Because on the ballot, yeah, it'll make the ballot longer, which I know Sarah loves.
She might be able to answer.
You
just remove 2 articles. Reader.
Yeah.
the warnings, yeah. The special warnings.
Do we have any idea the length of the ballot now? Like, are we close to the bottom of the second page right now?
And
Yeah, and that's another question too, is can the,
be very.
but if not, can how the what we're spending, what the revenue would be spent on, can that just be one paragraph and then the local option tax? Then just one sentence to yes, no. It's an attorney question.
Yeah, that's an excellent.
But it's a way to make it easy to understand and also easy to read. Yes.
So are you suggesting then that each one of those revenue targets would have its own bullet?
No, well, as a bullet point, so it's all in one vote, but
Right.
instead of a paragraph form,
Each one would have its own line.
yes.
Yeah.
Capital,
Okay.
debt, reserves, yes.
But you're okay with removing that last phrase
Yes.
after
because
provided?
Yes, because several folks told me it just was not needed or it made it more confusing. Everybody needs an editor.
Yes.
I'm actually. I'm fine with the way you guys shortened this up compared to what we had last week, and I appreciate this does make it as simple as possible, but I do appreciate Leah's thought about the bullet points, if that's possible. The less cumbersome we make this, the better it is for everybody.
The bullet points certainly would make it easier to read. It'd just be interesting to hear what legal counsel would have to say.
Well,
Get a lawyer involved and
if you guys are
Fit.
comfortable with this general phrasing, first of all, I need you to follow up with us about whether or not you want the reviewed and approved by the select board publicly warned meetings, to follow up on that, to let us know how you want to proceed with or without it. And then I can forward to legal counsel via bullet and say if bullets aren't allowed, then this is the language that the select board has given a head nod to. Is this okay?
But I think what we're saying is each one of these articles would end at total town net revenues. That would be the end of each paragraph at this point. So provided, and the rest of each one would be removed.
Yes, but I think my question was, in addition to the bullet point, was could it be worded such that if the town should access a local option tax, the revenue would be dedicated to the bullet points, and then it would be voted, shall the town of Morristown access a 1% meals and alcohol beverage tax pursuant to blah, blah, blah.
With the bullet points.
Not with the bullet
Just
points.
one.
I just want one.
No.
No,
No?
The bullets to go in once, then, yeah.
I'm almost 100% certain that legal counsel will push back. Nice.
But we can ask.
Sarah says no.
I don't want to ask.
Sarah
I don't
says
like-
no.
Because I think you should have to be separate articles.
No, that's not.
Yeah, so Sarah Haskins, town clerk, if you're gonna make them separate articles, you're gonna have to do those bullet points and those wording for every time.
Now, if you rescinded your direction, your motion to have 3 separate articles,
Just made it
then
one.
we could. I'm just making aware of that. I don't suggest it, but that's the only way. Thank you, Sarah, for.
No, man.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
All right, so I'm fine with bullet points. I agree with Sarah because she knows the law. But I also think we don't have to get carried away with how long this is going. I mean, we can put, to my count, there are 5 bullets. There's one for capital projects, that's 1. Debt reduction is 2. Reserves of future capital and emergency needs, 3. Economic and community development, 4. Or municipal property tax relief. And then I'm not sure what we do with the, I guess that stays in the bullet without increasing town revenues. I mean, if this is getting long as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we can just go 2 3s and, 2 columns of bullets, and they take a couple of lines. And so now if we're worried about paper, which to me is the least thing we should be worried about, we can format it. But I agree with Sarah that all 3 of them should look the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So whether we do 6 bullets vertically or a 3x2 matrix of bullets, fine. I'm good.
I think it's gonna come down to what legal counsel has to say
If,
about all this.
if they authorize bullets, fine. If they don't, this is fine, frankly.
Other thoughts? I see one hand up on Zoom. Hold on, Josh. Any other thoughts on this? Josh, go ahead. Josh Goldstein, I believe that is.
It is Joshua Goldstein, Planning Commission Vice Chair. It's germane to the conversation. It may be too far down the road, but Planning Council at the time was the one that wrote the letter suggesting this to the Select Board. I'm so happy to see it up for for discussion. Just quickly, our recommendation at the time, based on a lot of public input at our meetings, was, okay, we could be in favor of this, but like it should go to a dedicated thing. So I don't know how far down the road you are of dedicating where these funds might be applied. But that was the guidance we got and what we came up with as a board for our suggestion, meaning these bullet points could be much less, even if it was all three different taxes. This will be applied to this will be applied to that, applied to so on and so forth. I don't know if that simplifies things or confuses it further, but that was the recommendation we gave to you as a board and what we heard from, granted, probably all the same people in the room you have, but that's where we got our information from.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Yeah, we've had quite a bit of discussion about this. I think the board is feeling pretty comfortable with the language that's on here right now, rather than targeting this any more specifically or less specifically. Yeah.
Josh, I am adamant that it should be dedicated, and who I talk to, everyone I talk to say they want to know where it's going and they want it sunsetted so that we can review it at a certain time. These four are not in agreement with me, but I would like it noted that I'm not in agreement with this because the people I'm talking to see this as a slush fund and won't vote for it.
Other comments, discussion? Okay, well, you have what you need to take to legal counsel, Brent?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to move on then. Look at that, it's 7:30 and we're approving the warrants at 7:30. So
Don't mess up the rest of this, would you?
yeah. I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the warrants.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Richard and a second by George to approve the warrants. Do I have any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the warrants, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous. I'm just taking some notes here for you, Judy. The warrants were motioned by Richard, seconded by George. You got it? Okay, great. And it was a unanimous vote. The upcoming schedule, we've alluded to the fact that on Saturday, we have our third Pie Day, Pie for Breakfast Day. But it is at the VFW, not at PA. That's an important distinction for all of us if people can help get the word out. And just as a reminder, anybody who's around on Friday after 2 o'clock to help Judy with setup, I will not be there. I cannot make it until, I could be there about 6 o'clock, but I'm assuming you'll be done by then.
Nice timing.
So if you can, if anyone's available at the VFW to help with setup, that would be great.
It's Dawn, real quick. It's going to be 3 o'clock, not 2.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Thank you so much.
And
3 o'clock.
Pie Day starts at 9 o'clock on Saturday.
The meeting starts at 8.
Breakfast is at 8. Yes, it does say that. Next Monday, January 12th, we will have a select board special meeting in regards to the budget at 5:30 right here. On the 20th, we will have our next regular select board meeting. That's on a Tuesday because Monday is Martin Luther King Day. Oh, by the way, January 15th, petition deadline for articles. We talked about that last week. Sarah's been reminding us of that. And then on Monday, January 26th is both the deadline for candidate petitions for elected officials. And it is also going to be a special select board meeting. I believe, is that when we sign the warrant? So on the 26th, we'll be signing, not the warrant, but the warning. Okay, thank you. We'll be signing the warning on the 26th.
What's the 12th meeting?
The
That's
12th is
not
another budget meeting. Budget discussions.
It's the required, we had to have a certain.
It's not a required meeting. It is a meeting that we put into the calendar to make sure we had plenty of time to talk about the budget.
Do we feel that we need that?
my opinion, more time you provide the residents to voice their opinions, the better, but it's up to the select board.
I'd say let's leave it as a placeholder right now. We may find out we get here on the 12th. There's not much to talk about and it might be a quick meeting.
Just seeing by the number of people that aren't showing up
Right.
and on Zoom that.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it just seems like it's not needed, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else about schedule? No other business? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So motion by Richard, second by George. To adjourn, it is 7:30. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.